Hi there, and welcome to another episode of African Business Stories. Africa is the only region in the world where more women than men choose to be entrepreneurs. What this says to me is that the story of business in Africa is the story of the African businesswoman. So we're on a journey of discovery to find these women and tell their stories. On the show, we will hear from female innovators and entrepreneurs building and running businesses in Africa. They will share the highs and lows of their entrepreneurial journey and lessons learned along the way. Some of these women you may know, and many you may not, but I assure you that all their stories are inspiring in their own right. My hope is that these stories will inspire you to reach for your dreams and leave a legacy for generations to come. It makes such a big difference to us if you can rate, review, and share our episodes. You can do this mainly on Apple Podcasts, and you can find us on all podcast platforms. If you're in Africa, Spotify is now available, so check us out there. And don't forget to rate, review, and share. On the show today, I had the pleasure of chatting with one of my oldest friends, Chigozirim Otefe-Edebi, consultant, author, and co-founder of Gracehill Behavioral Health Services in Lagos, Nigeria. We talk about her 12-year career in telecoms, experiencing burnout and quitting suddenly, her drive as a side hustler, and what led her to write her first book, The Side Hustle Workbook, and now dedicating her time to building a legacy business with her husband, providing jobs for medical professionals, enhancing the quality of healthcare, and building a world-class mental health practice in Lagos, Nigeria. I dedicate this to all trailblazers. Let's get into it. Hi, Chigo. Welcome to African Business Stories.
Hello, Akego. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing, awesome. Like, I'm a huge fan of your work, and for me to be on your platform now, that is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chigo. I am also a huge fan. So I'm glad that we get this opportunity to do this. You're one of my oldest friends. Our parents worked together in the civil service. We grew up in the same estate, and unplanned, we ended up going to the same high school.
Yes.
So that's fun. So talking about growing up, I wonder if you could share maybe some of your fondest memories growing up.
Okay, as you know, where we grew up was quite sheltered. It was close to the airport, as soon as our parents were, staff of, then it was called Nigerian Airport Authority. So it was really serene. When I think of how everywhere outside there is, like, that place was like a bubble. It was El Dorado, really peaceful. There were no power outages. If they were going to take if there was going to be a power cut, they would let us know. everything and everybody was a stone throw from you. And I remember just being fascinated by visiting people and just realizing that, okay, your parents are different from my parents. The way that you do things in your house is actually different. That used to be a shocker for me, but at least that prepared me for a life of diversity, because some people live such a sheltered life that they don't know people are different. But growing up like that and being exposed to that many people in such a in a confined, secure space really exposed me to the beauty of diversity of people and their backgrounds. So it was really fun growing up there.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
For me, I think the swimming pool and the tennis court.
Yes.
Having those facilities so close by and so accessible is something I look back now and I think we took it for granted. That
Did you ever play tennis? I never took advantage. Did you ever?
Oh, I did.
Oh,
I
you did. Okay.
Oh, yes, coach. Yes, I played tennis.
Okay,
I did.
We took those things for granted, but here we are now.
In terms of your parents, and I just wonder if there are any pivotal lessons that you feel that you learned from them that you've taken into adulthood.
Oh, definitely. My parents, both of blessed memory now, If there was anything they taught me, it was the dignity in labor, hard work, not to feel entitled. Nobody owes you a thing. Like, that was, if there was one outcry or one message that they left with us, was like, nobody owes you anything, not your sibling, not your uncle, not your auntie, not even them as your parents. They really put that value of independence in me, and you trying to find your way in life and making something out of who you are and what God has given to you. They didn't encourage us to be lazy or to be dependent on anyone. So that is one thing amongst several other beautiful things, but that in itself was something that I can never forget. I even tell my husband all the time, like, nobody's coming to rescue you, rescue yourself.
Right.
So yeah, so
that's awesome. So we finished high school, FGGC Owerri. We finished, and you went off to Uniben, University of Benin,
Yes.
one of the most prestigious schools in Nigeria.
Yes.
And you studied biochemistry, which was a bit of a shocker to some of us that knew you. So how did you come to study biochemistry?
I can't go. It was, I don't know, if there was ever a Big Bang Theory, that would be that will be one of the things that happened. It was an accident. To be sincere, it was an accident. When I was in SS1, what would you call it in America now? SS1 would be,
I think SS1 would be 10th grade.
Okay, 10th grade. So
Yeah.
at that time, you had to choose whether you wanted to go the path of science or arts. And I just took it for granted that because I was doing well in the arts, like, even with my eyes closed, without studying, I would get 100% in my, in my assignments, in my exams, and so on. So I just felt you need the path of work where you need to put in the work. So physics, chemistry, biology, physics being the hardest, chemistry being here, middle, and then biology being the easiest. I chose that path. That set me on the science path. And then when my parents heard that I had chosen that path, they were so happy. My father now said, oh, he wanted me to do pharmacy. My mother wanted me to be a doctor.
Wow.
In fact, gynecologist, to be precise. She was very particular. Help women. So I knew that I didn't want to do either of these things. And the simple reason why I didn't want to, medicine, because of the blood and some other things, I had heard that doctors in Nigeria will eventually suffer. I heard that from an uncle. Then pharmacy, it wouldn't have been so bad, but the physics, I really hated physics. I was poor in physics. And honestly, picking up the entrance form to go into university, I just looked for whatever will not require physics, honestly. And
Wow.
it became whatever science course will not require physics. It became biochemistry. Like, the name alone just popped up. Honestly, this is how I chose it. I just said
Wow.
biochemistry, and I chose it. And it's, in retrospect, I'm like, we really need counselors in school.
Right.
This cannot be how, this is so wrong. This is not right. How I just entered, stumbled into biochemistry. And I kept telling my father for years, I'll soon change to pharmacy, don't worry. But my mother was like, medicine is not an option. So that's how it happened.
At what point during your time studying biochemistry did you decide, I'm actually not going to pursue this, I'm going to do something else when I leave university?
Okay, as we progress, you realize that there's no path. Well, as we progressed in, the faculty, we realized that after school, there's really nothing. Like, it's not like when you're studying law and you know that, okay, when I come out, I could either go to a private chamber to work, or I could be going to court, or if I'm a doctor, I could work in a hospital. We realized quickly that the path of biochemistry as at that time was to either end up in a lab in a lab in a hospital, or in the morgue in a hospital, or some boring. Even then, Nigeria, I don't think till now, okay, maybe we've made some progress, but I doubt we have, we've really invested in scientific research, so
Right.
I knew very quickly that this was going nowhere. It's just the certificate.
How was it to transition from biochemistry into banking at that time in Nigeria?
Thankfully, the labor market in Nigeria as at that time didn't really care what they didn't care what you studied. They just come with your degree, make sure you have a BSc and either a second class upper or second class lower, or a first class. In fact, some employers in Nigeria believe that first class people with first class certificates are troublesome. So just once you have a second class upper, please feel free to come in and be interviewed. So it wasn't difficult at all. And
Okay.
as at that time, banks were one of the biggest employers of fresh graduates. So that's how it happened. And my brother was in banking, and he
Okay.
was inspirational the way he approached his job in banking. So I just felt I wanted to be a banker. So when a banking opportunity came up, I took it, and the pay was good, everything was good. Unfortunately, I realized that
What is good for the geese is not good for the
I
gander.
realized that the grass is greener. It's green the other way. It doesn't have to. I realized I hated banking. It wasn't for me. It was just lovely on my brother, but for me, no.
So how did you then switch to telecoms?
Okay, as at that time as well, telecoms. Shortly after, telecoms was very new in the country, and they made call center jobs. In fact, telecoms was exciting. Like if you saw the staff, the employees of telecom companies, then they were like amazing. You just wanted, they were inspirational. You just wanted to be like them. And then the people who worked in call center was one of the biggest employers as well. After the banks, then the telecom call centers were one of the biggest employers, for fresh graduates as well when telecoms started in Nigeria. So it became the next obvious choice. One of my uncles told me about it when I told him I was tired of banking, and he was like, okay, where he was working in an oil company then. He said there was no vacancy, but I could try where his wife worked, and that was telecoms. And that's how the journey the journey to get into Econet Wireless started. Like it was a struggle. I submitted CV everywhere, and eventually it happened.
That's fantastic. And Econet, which then became Airtel, you spent 12 years.
I wish it was that straightforward. The way you said it, Econet to Airtel. No, there were many changes in between. Please don't disrespect our history.
My apologies. Econet, which evolved and then became Airtel. But
Yes.
the point I'm trying to make is that you spent 12 years of your career there.
Yes.
And you rose significantly from the call center to being a manager.
Mm-hmm.
If you could share some of the biggest lessons you learned in your time at Airtel, that would be great.
Fantastic. So I got into Econet as a call center agent, and with time, 18 months, moved to corporate communications, where we were doing PR, events, sponsorships. And then after that, I moved to advertising, marketing, communications, advertising. And from there, I moved to human resources. And then I came back to marketing, communication, advertising. And that's where I became manager brand assets. So in the course of my time there, I had excellent managers. Like if I had 10 bosses in cumulatively at Airtel, maybe just one or two gave me issues, but most of them were fantastic teachers, excellent work ethics. To be specific, when we became Airtel, I learned to make change happen. As you can see, I moved roles. If Mohammed is not going to come to the mountain, how do
That's
they say
right.
it? Yeah, so
The mountain
has to go. So I learned to initiate change and manage change, because from Econet we changed abruptly to V-Mobile, In fact, we're Vodacom for 24 hours. Then we became V-Mobile. And then from V-Mobile, we became Celtel. And from Celtel, we became Zain. And then before you know, we were Airtel. Yes. And none of these changes, you didn't get a letter to say, dear all, we are about to change. No. You go to work and you come the next day, we have changed. You have a new boss, and within these changes you had new bosses, new leaders, so I learned how to manage change and be resilient even during change. So I'm really flexible and highly adaptable. From Airtel in particular, working with Indians, I learned business efficiency and cost management, like how to run an efficient business, keep it lean, keep it low. A lot of excesses, like moving from Zain. Zain belonged to Arabs, and Arabs, there was abundance. Like even during Ramadan, they would buy pizza for the whole company to break fast. Both those who were not, like, they were just there was abundance, and they spent. It was just a life of luxury and leisure, honestly. In retrospect, V-Mobile was the partying life, like we were spending money. But when Airtel came, these Indians taught us prudence. Like, what do you mean to say, do you need this? Do you need to do this? That was one question we always asked ourselves. And then they taught us the question of what's stopping you. So regardless of what you want to do, what's stopping you? So I learned how to manage a business under Airtel, So those are some of the things. And then my time in HR was an amazing time as well, that has really, really shaped me. Working in HR, in my time in HR in telecoms, taught me how to be objective, how to take feedback you take feedback no matter how terribly it's packaged, and then get the constructive results from there, and then sometimes when there are challenges, you need to change and not necessarily the situation. So my time in HR was very significant. It shaped me a lot while I was in telecoms.
I remember when you left Airtel, I thought it was strange that you left and you didn't have another job you were going to. And we spoke about that recently, and you talked about being burnt out and not knowing you were burnt out, and I wanted you to unpack that a little, like what was happening, and how did you come to leave Airtel, and look and this reflection that you've made, that you were burnt out and didn't realize you were burnt out. I wonder if there are people who are in that situation, and if there's something they can learn so that they don't make, at the time it seemed like a mistake. You've landed on both feet now, but you've talked about maybe you could have done things differently.
Yeah, so it was a lot of change in the organization. And at the time when I resigned, we just had a new chief commercial officer, and it was December. Like, I had done so many projects back to back, and if anyone knows me, or if anyone has worked with me, they'll tell you that I'm all in or nothing. If I'm not interested, I'm not interested. I won't do it. But if I'm interested, I give it my all. So I was exhausted. And this man was new. He was an Arab. He was new, and he is an Arab. I still keep in touch on LinkedIn. So he was new, and he wanted so many things. He was demanding so many things, and I was exhausted. In retrospect, I realized I was exhausted. This was December. It had been a long year. So many things had happened, and I was exhausted. And he wanted me to, there was this project we were working on, The Voice Nigeria. He wanted me to travel to South Africa. He wanted me to travel here and there. I was just exhausted. And him being new, he needed to deliver. He needed to, he had the management was on his neck and all that. And I was just exhausted, and I just told him, I'm resigning. It's okay. I'm okay. I'm resigning. Of course, there were other underlying issues, processes, different things. At that time, I was just exhausted, and I said I was resigning. Now, nobody actually bothered to say, "Oh, Chigo, why are you resigning?" Rather, they were happy for me, because people knew that I used to do a lot of, I had side hustles.
Yeah, we're coming
Yes,
to talk about
and I
that.
had other professional, interests. They knew, and I was excelling in those areas, so they just assumed, oh, Chigo is finally going to do her thing. And I kid you not, from the MD down, they were all congratulating me. I mean, I just knew that I was just like, okay, I wasn't even thinking. Like, I just needed to go. I just needed to leave this place and just go and rest. In retrospect, I could have just asked for 1 month leave, even if it was without pay. I could have asked for a break. But it's like, at that time, there was so much pressure, and there was no one else to do the job or something. I don't know. It was just, like, again, that was another point in my career, in my life, that I could have done well with counseling.
Right.
Like, someone to really ask me or probe, or not assume that Chigo is going to become a celebrity. So I'm doing very well now. I had no regrets. A lot of things happened after that made me realize that, okay, maybe it was just in the best interest. 12 years in an organization, I think I gave the organization my best, and it also gave me its best. So yeah, no regrets. But at that time, maybe if someone had counseled me, maybe I wouldn't have. I even paid the company, because I resigned with 2 weeks notice. So my contract was like, you have to pay. So a lot of things, that I could have done differently, maybe, if I...
Yeah, so just for people who, because, I mean, we're Nigerians, a lot of Africans are generally hustlers, and they just keep going and keep going. Are there some signs, just looking back, that people that don't realize that they're burning out, or don't realize that they're, are there things that people can look out for? Are there like signs that if this thing, if XYZ is happening, maybe you need to pause? Are there things like that? What do you think about that?
So I'll use myself as an example. I now see the signs when I'm burnt out.
Okay.
I'm a creative person, very excited about creating ideas, creating stuff, and then generating ideas. Once I am not interested, like, once something that ordinarily will excite me is not bringing that level of excitement, it's a red flag. Secondly, you wake up in the morning and you're tired. You don't want to go somewhere that you would ordinarily have been excited about. It's a red flag. I have learned over the years that it might not be the job itself, it may be the people you work with, it may be the circumstances surrounding how you do the work, and so on. But these are all red flags. When you wake up in the morning and you hate your life, you wake up in the morning, you're not interested. Here I was, as at that time, I was supposed to travel to South Africa, Abuja, where else? Some areas for The Voice, the auditions, and to meet with the organizers. Early in my career, like in 2005, 2006, I was that girl that was always traveling. We used to, I had a traveling bag in the office. We could be working, and then, hey, we have an event, it's time to move. We go to Abuja, we're going to Kenya. I had my baby, my first child, and as soon as I resumed, I moved to Kenya for, Nigerian idols, or African, one of those reality shows. That was my project. So ordinarily, as a person, those things were things that I would love to do, add value, make it colorful, deliver, be excited about. But I just noticed I wasn't interested. So those are some of the signs of burnout. And then you're irritable, you're not adding value to the work, you're just a stumbling block for everyone else. People are shouting it's possible, you are shouting it's impossible. And sincerely speaking, if you really look deep into it, you realize that you're just being a stumbling block because it's not convenient for you. So get out of the way, let people who can do it, and you go take a break. So this is just these are just some of my personal experiences. And I do that a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, we'll come back to talk about the counseling. It's funny where you've ended up now as a business owner, dealing with mental health issues. But we'll come back to talk about that. I'm still working through your amazing packed, life. So I call you the queen of side hustles.
Thank you.
And I don't know if I know anybody else who is as adventurous when it comes to entrepreneurship and side hustles. I mean, you say you're a retired compare, but I mean, we keep pulling you out of of retirement, and you know, I remember when you were hosting a radio show and producing the radio show. You know, you've written books, but how do you manage to keep all this, your passions, in play?
Okay, so I think it just started with me trying to be independent. Remember when we started, coincidentally, you asked me about my parents and the you know, outstanding values, you know, that they taught me. I think it started with just trying to be independent, to be an independent woman, a financially independent woman, someone who pays her bills, earns her keep, and, you know, is a support to her husband, and, you know, adds value to the family, both my nuclear and extended family. I think that's how it started. So that just helped my mind to spot opportunities, and then being maybe my personality being, you know, and to a certain extent extroverted. So I would always find opportunities, see opportunities. Somebody says the Igbo blood, maybe too much Igbo blood. So I see opportunities, and then I used to see opportunities, take advantage of them. I have learned. That's part of why I wrote the Side Hustle Workbook, that not every opportunity is mine. But back then, I used to just, if I see opportunity, I try it out. And one of the most amazing things, because when I was looking through the things you shared with me, I realized that one of the key enablers of this behavior in my life was that everybody around me, nobody ever said no. Like if I say I even want to start selling spaceships, my father never said no, my mother never said no, my husband never said no. Nobody around me, my sibling, didn't care. You need money for what? He may, if I even say I need the money, you know, something, he would give me to start. People who I took goods from to supply supermarkets, you know, because I've been doing retail business for a while, for years, supplying supermarkets with stuff. They used to give me on credit. Do you understand? Like, I was just surrounded with enablers, so I saw there was hardly no. So I lost money in some projects, I made money in some projects, like the radio show. I was working in Airtel at the time, and I asked for sponsorship. I told him I had this idea. I went straight to the MD, like I was privileged, and he was an Indian man, some fatherly figure, you know. And I told him everything, and he said, oh, sounds like a nice idea. He directed me to the people to talk to, and took them like 6 months, but eventually they accepted the concept and they sponsored. So I think one of the things that enabled me to just fly was that even with my managers, nobody said no. I never told someone that I have an event that I need to compare, and you know, and then the person saying no, you can't go. They always say go, and when you go, please bring, you know, because the contacts I made at those events, I always brought them back to the company. They would come back to the company. You know, it was a win-win relationship. So I never got a no. So anything I wanted to do, I just did. I learned the hard way on my own that some of these things, you know, you would lose money in the process, and that's why I did the Side Hustle Workbook.
That's fantastic. So you went on in 2017 to set up Gracehill.
Yes.
I mean, a lot happened. I mean, I don't think this one show is enough to discuss all the things that you've done in your life, Chigo.
Yes.
But just to come home, bringing you home now. So in 2017, you and your husband set up Gracehill.
Yes.
Which is a mental health, psychiatry practice.
Yes.
You know, and so what inspired you guys to start this business?
Okay, first of all, contrary to popular opinion, I am not my husband's patient. and I wasn't the one who drove him to psychiatry. We met, and I didn't meet him as a patient.
Oh gosh.
So we met in school, you know, and he was just a student of medicine. But with time, I think psychiatry was one of the courses that he ever failed in his life. And in the process of trying to prepare to resit for it, he fell in love with the course. Now, on my own part, I never really nothing major. I was just, living in the house with a psychiatrist and just watching him. But that when I was working, I wasn't paying attention to the business side of it. I just understood it as a profession, part of medicine. He was going through his residency and all that. But when I resigned from Airtel in 2015 December, I was now at home, like doing consulting, my own private practice, and just I had more time to observe this young man. And I observed that not only was psychiatry a big need, like it was amazing the amount of people who needed his attention. He was consulting in so many different hospitals across Lagos and all, and I began to see the opportunities in it, that with improved system structure, there's a business case for private psychiatric practice in Nigeria and in this
Right.
Lagos, because we're in Lagos now, and not just Lagos, Nigeria, Africa, and I gave it. I asked him a lot of questions. I listened to him, and I saw the business case, and that was it. I decided I was going to invest in this. I was going to put some systems and structures in place. As a doctor, he wasn't. His own angle was, people need to be treated. Let's treat them. But I was like, with systems and structures, this is a very, very lucrative and impactful business that you can scale all the way up, from even local to global. So that was how it started, really. And what inspires and motivates and drives us is the help that we're giving people help, and also we're creating jobs. So
Yeah.
that was a field of medicine in Nigeria that was relatively dormant compared to, in terms of job opportunities, in terms of 100 gynecologists can come out from school today, or from their certification accreditation today, and maybe 90 of them will get jobs right here in Nigeria, probably. I'm just saying, probably. But psychiatry is far, 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 far less. 100 psychiatrists,
Wow.
maybe 10, maybe 5 in psychiatric hospitals. So creating jobs has been very fulfilling for us. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface, but at least we are enabling psychiatrists practice and earn decently, and we're enabling psychologists do the same. We're enabling psychiatric nurses who are passionate about the field practice, and of course the administrative staff, of course, they have jobs that they love. So that has been very fulfilling for us and continues to inspire us. Yes.
In terms of your startup challenges,
Yeah.
because like you said, it was a dormant sector in Nigeria. You saw that there was opportunity, there's a business case there, but I imagine that you obviously faced some challenges in the beginning, and I wonder if you could share some of those and how you overcame them, if you have overcome them.
The first challenge we faced was funding, but that got resolved quickly when we saw the need. There are some businesses you start and you don't put a dime, but when I saw the business case and I saw that, no, this business has so much potential, I went to my pension. Recall I had been working for over 12 years, and I had been on pension, and I had resigned. I resigned in 2015 December, and after watching this young man for 1 full year, because this business started in August 2017, so more than enough time had passed for me to access, I think, about 25% or something of my pension. So I went to my pension, and that was where we got the startup capital for that. And then the next challenge we had was psychiatric nurses for private care. So there's the system on ground as at that time, and even today, was you can only be trained in a public hospital, and public hospital, because of the sentiments of public, nobody's the patients are at the mercy of the government hospital. It's not like private practice where people pay us, and because they pay us, they demand excellence. They
Right.
demand standards. Even if we're not in the mood to give you the standard, they demand it. You have people that can come to our facility, and if the generator is off, they'll ask you, why is there no light? Do you understand? And you can't be saying, but this is Nigeria, we're all here together. You apologize and say, oh, they're working on it, it's about to come on. So, but in public sector, like in private health, a consult with a psychiatrist or a psychologist can take from 45 minutes to 90 minutes. In public sector, maybe 5 minutes,
What?
because they have to see like 500 patients in a 4-hour shift or 6-hour shift. So it's the workload is a lot there, and they're not as patient, they're not as caring, they're not as which is not necessarily their fault. So nurses trained in public sector, when it comes to private sector, they do not understand. It is a world apart. Well, what did we do? We started identifying, like there's a term we normally use. We started looking for the nurses that are our tribe. Nurses who enjoy psychiatry, are passionate about psychiatry, and are willing to do whatever it takes to deliver. And not people who feel entitled, or just, according to one of our senior nurses, she said there are 2 types of nurses. One category wants to practice psychiatry for the love of the profession. There's another category that just learnt it so they can get visa and leave this country. We don't want those ones. So finding the kind of nursing care that we desired was a challenge, but we overcame, and we're still on the journey, getting better at selecting the right kind of people. Then addiction, drug addiction is it's a big challenge, and it's not something that the fights, the structure, we had to do a lot of research. It's relatively new in Nigeria somehow. It's not like addiction rehab centers were as many as we are seeing now, as in professional addiction rehab centers like we are. So we had to really do a lot of digging for programs, and then even the skills to manage those programs, to take the patients through the program, all the various types of programs. This is different from psychotherapy or psychology. There's drug program that some people are familiar with, the 12 steps program, Big Brother program, different kinds of programs. So actually finding skilled and competent people who will take these people through this program was a challenge. And even us, managing to put together that level of detail and not leaving it to chance that, okay, if I hire this guy, he knows what to do. During the interview, tell you that he knows what to do, blah blah. But when it comes to implementation, we had to take time to really work on those programs, and we're seeing results. So those are just some of the challenges. And of course, when we started, we still had our jobs. My husband was working for another psychiatric practice. He was the medical director there, and then I was working I wasn't working when we first started. Then at some point I started working, I got a job, and then he was no longer he resigned from where he was to face the practice. So all this time juggling the work was also, I could say, it was a challenge at the time, but we overcame by time management and just for the love of the game, the passion. Another thing we've done is we've always lived very close to any facility we got, because we've moved facilities 3 times now. Because we started with, like I said, 1 bed, 1 nurse, but now we're on 30 beds. And of course, our team is far larger than when we started.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In terms of mental health in Nigeria, how have you seen the industry grow, and where do you think things are going?
Okay, it's growing. It's really growing. When we started, there was still stigma. So some of the areas, so I'll give you very clear areas where I can say I have seen growth. First of all, if you look at before, when we started, we would say, oh, we're the only private psychiatric hospital from Oshodi to Badagry. After Oshodi, you won't find another private psychiatric hospital the next one was Badagry. Okay.
Wow.
But now, this is how many years later, between 2017 and now. There's even one at Oshodi, there's another one at Antony, like that. It's growing. Another thing is that churches, who used to be like our competitors then, because most times people, it's not as if we have people, there aren't people who still believe that mental illness is a spiritual problem. There are, but we are seeing churches, pastors refer people to us.
Okay.
There's one particular pastor who he's in the deliverance ministry. And he will tell them that I have prayed for you. There's another deliverance minister called Dr. Edebi. We use drugs. We apply drugs for you. We will apply medication for you, you know. So we see churches and pastors referring to us. So there's more uptake. When we started, we were very particular about scheduling appointments for people, you know, because people were shy. People didn't want to be seen in our reception. You know, they were concerned about stigma and all. Now it's as if you're going for antenatal. People don't even, it doesn't mean that there aren't some people who come in with big glasses, wrap a shawl around their head and all that. Maybe their first appointment, they wear face cap and all that. But subsequently, when they see that there are many other people and there is help. It's just like having high blood pressure or something. So people are less, we're seeing people let down their guard and, you know, realize that this is an illness, just like a physical illness. That awareness is seriously growing. We are very grateful to the entertainment industry, millennials and Gen Z, who do a lot for creating awareness of mental health. Like a significant number of Nigerian movies now pay attention to, they at least highlight mental health issue. And then Gen Z and millennials on Twitter, they don't play with mental health issues. So those things are really, really helping us, and it's progressing. We're seeing progress. We're seeing great progress. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Chigo.
Yeah.
You seem passionate about everything that you put your hands on, and not just passionate, but also knowledgeable. You know, and it's something that intrigues me, and I don't know if it's a real question.
Okay, so it's a very valid question, and I want to say, you know, when I started, we were saying something. I told you that if I'm in, I'm in. If I'm not in, I'm not in. Do you understand? Even in my work life, it has been consistent in all my appraisals, from manager to manager. They always wrote, and my husband will tell you the same thing. My mother will tell you the same thing. Is it I'm interested or I'm not interested? So if I'm interested, I come with everything. I soak it up. So for psychiatry, being married to a psychiatrist, and he's so passionate about it, he talks about it, a lot of things that I know about psychiatry just by listening to him. Just by listening to him. Sometimes I even learn from just listening to him having a conversation on the phone with someone. So, you know, that's how I learned a lot about psychiatry. And then, of course, we took some courses, did some trainings and so on. Just like any other thing, it's a business. And so if you understand the semantics of the business, you can just apply the other principles of business and you get your results.
So I have interviewed a lot of people who work with their husbands. I always find it very interesting. So what's it like working with your husband on a daily?
Working with my husband. Well, first of all, we're friends. We've been friends for a long time. And so that is one of the things. So we trust each other. I trust him completely. And he trusts me as well. Then we respect each other's competencies. So you stay in your lane. You're a doctor. Stay in your lane. I won't come and start prescribing drug for anybody. And then I, on the business side, I do what I do, and he respects me and respects that. However, with time, we learn from each other. So over time, he has gotten into some business, some aspects of business management from learning from me, and he also took some courses, just the same way I took some courses about mental health practice and consulting and so on. So we learn from each other, and then we grow together. The important thing is there must be trust, respect, and we understand that the dynamics at home are very different from the dynamics at work. So at work, I am the BD, business director, and he calls me that, and he gives me, sometimes it's amusing the way he would do that respect, when I'm around. And then I also give him that respect as Dr. Edebi at work. But when we come home, it's different. The dynamics is very, very different. I can send him message, and he can send me, please bring water for me. Do this, do that, and vice versa.
Funny.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's great. So we're still, I don't want to say, we're still in the throngs of COVID.
Yes.
It's been quite a challenging year, and there's been a lot of discussion around mental health and raising awareness. I know you're in the business of doing the work, and I wonder what this period of COVID has been like for your business.
When we were on lockdown, we actually took the position of critical staff staying fully in and residing in the premises, while non-essential staff worked from home. And then where we needed to change shifts, we transported people to their homes with our official vehicles. So we also stopped pick-up service, because we actually pick up people in crisis. But during COVID, we didn't do that. You have to bring your person to the facility yourself, and then we observe, and then we had to, have rooms designated for isolation first, at least for the first 7 to 14 days, to observe the patient. We also observed more foreigners coming in for admission. Even at our location, which is
because of the lockdown.
Yeah, because of the lockdown, they couldn't leave the country. So we generally also increased all the protocols, and it didn't affect business negatively. In fact, we started online consultation in June as COVID was, tipping. Lockdown was tipping, not COVID. So we started online consultation, and this has really grown. We've even seen people in diaspora calling in to book appointments, with us. So I'll say COVID, apart from maybe the uncertainty of a lot of things, but I won't say COVID affected business negatively at all.
That's fantastic. So you talked about growing the business from 1 bed to 30 beds and moving locations 3 times. What's the plan in terms of scaling? Are there any plans?
Yes, there are plans. Like a joke, we started saying we wanted to move from 1 bed, we moved to 9 beds, then 14 beds, then it was like 30 beds. When Dr. Edebi used to talk about 30 beds, I just I would look at him like, what building? I couldn't even imagine a facility that would, have 30 beds the way it should and be decent, But today it's our reality. So the day we moved into the facility with 30 beds, he was like, so after this now 300 beds. 300 beds. And I said, yeah, let's do it, So but apart from that, we look forward to collaboration, global partnerships. We think it will be valuable for us to be a part of a whole, to be a mental practice that is a part of a whole, an ecosystem of other mental health practices across the world. So that will give access to, because personally it's a challenge for any medical practice, and especially psychiatry, I dare say, the migration of talent out of Nigeria. Any nurse you promote, you increase her salary very well, or his salary, before you know it, they've started writing IELTS to leave the country. But I believe that if we collaborate globally and we're able to get partners that can impact us in terms of knowledge sharing, transfer of skills, it's not just money. We're not just about bring money. We've had people who have suggested that they want to invest in us, but cash is not the issue. The issue is we need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more capacity, because there's so much. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface. The jobs that we have all sorts of professions in mental health that we have capacity for. So we need the expertise and competence. We need the professional partnerships that can make more impact in this field, in this country. And then our nurses and our doctors won't feel like they have to leave the country. You can have secondments. We can have short-term assignments in another country, and then you come back, you've learnt, and then they too can send people here.
Right.
It doesn't have to be you leave the country permanently and all that. So we're opening our eyes to collaborations and then research. We have in our small time discovered certain things, and we're looking to put out some research with our name on it. That's fantastic. As time goes on. So those are just some of the things that we're doing.
That's fantastic. What's been your experience with access to finance for your business?
Oh, they come running to us, really.
Really?
Yeah, as in loans. Yes. For loans, yes. The business has been self-funding to a large extent, and then we put our own resources. But for facility lease, we have found favor with GT Bank. You know, we were just on our own one day, and GT Bank wrote us to say, I'm paraphrasing now, and if nobody will hail me, let me hail myself, and let me hail our business. So basically, they just said, we love the way your business is doing, and we see you and how you're managing your funds and all that, and we just want you to know that, you know, you have this level of facility with us if you're interested. And I think it started from either 1 million naira or 5 and I think we've grown to 10 million naira capacity if we want, but we've never hit that mark. We just at a point when we wanted to move, one of those times we just took some finance which we have since paid back. So, and like I told you, some people from time to time insinuate that they want to invest, but we're not looking for just cash. And then we tried applying for grants, because we even have an NGO part, because there are other things in mental health that we can do. There's long stay, there's rehab centers, as in where people can learn, because the rehab center that we have is for drug addicts. They're not learning how to make baskets and all those things. No, they are actually learning how to cope when faced with the temptation. That's a different kind of rehab. But there are actually people who look for skill acquisition, long stay, where they can keep their relatives for years and all that. And the business case for that, it might be too pricey for people. There are challenges with that. So we're exploring grants, and we have partners with UNODC. But we're not yet, our business isn't up to the age or mature enough to get grants from them. So we keep applying every year. They haven't given us. So we keep our eyes open for opportunities for grants, but we are yet to get any grants yet.
So in terms of what Gracehill does today, I like the idea of long-term care and skills acquisition. And you keep referring to the fact that there are many sides to mental health and mental care. But what services does Gracehill provide today?
Okay, as of today, we have our psychiatric care, which is treatment for mentally ill, schizophrenia, bipolar, and so on. Then we have the addiction rehab, which is a structured residential program which lasts for 4 months, about 16 weeks thereabout. Then we offer counseling for so counseling is short-term, psychotherapy is long-term. So we offer psychotherapy and counseling, psychological interventions, trauma, and so on. We support the International Organization for Migration, IOM, with migration. So people coming into the country who maybe were deported from other countries, and they need mental health rehabilitation or treatment. We are the official partner of the IOM. But people who need to leave the country and they need a medical assessment, we are the official partner of the IOM and some other agencies like International SOS and so on. So we also provide employee assistance programs through HMOs and directly to some corporates. That's where their employees, need support, mental first level, you can call it first aid mental health support. Either we are pushing information to them, or when they have a crisis they can come to us. Employers shouldn't take mental health for granted. We've seen an increase in employees coming to us, employees coming to us for just talk therapy, counsel, after COVID, because people are now realizing that your mental health is it determines your productivity, and your ability to make clear decisions. It's just like if a phone that the battery is full. Sorry, the capacity is full. If you want to store a new picture, it will tell you that there's no space. That's how our minds are juggling everything that is happening with us and in the world, and then in the workplace. So therapy helps, counseling helps, and that's what EAP, Employee Assistance Programs, are about.
And I noticed that you and Dr. Otefe started Facebook Live series. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we in another life, or in our private lives, we are trained marriage counselors.
Okay.
So over the years we've been trained formally, both in religious sects and also as in mental health practice. We are trained counselors, marriage counselors. You find that family issues are at the center of a lot of people's mental health issues, whether family in terms of relationships with their parents, or family in terms of spouse. So we are trained marriage counselors, and the idea, he came up with the idea. He's always on some Facebook session or Instagram session, and he came up with, let's do a series for married couples. We did the first one and we got a lot of excellent feedback, how it was helpful. We did the second one, more feedback, and so we decided to make it a thing. So it happens every month, every third Thursday of the month or so, and we take a topic and we break it down, and we're getting good feedback, helpful feedback.
On what handle does this happen?
So we use his handle on Instagram at IamPdoc. At IamPdoc, and then we use my Facebook page, Chigozirim, Otefe-Edebi, and sometimes we share to the Gracehill page. In fact, almost everything we've done is shared to the Gracehill page, so that followers of Gracehill we even have a Gracehill community on Telegram. So we share this content widely, and people can take it up on any of the platforms.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Chigo. Normally, I like to end with a reflection and some advice. So in terms of reflecting, looking at all these things that you've done, and this business that you're building in Nigeria, what would you say has been the most impactful thing for you in building this business in Nigeria?
The impactful thing for me is the jobs. When I look at the people we work with, almost everyone there's a story. How we found this person, how this person came to us, and some of them, how they have evolved, has been beautiful to watch. There's this particular lady. She's on the clinical team as a psychologist, and she studied psychology, and she is passionate about psychology, and she was a teacher in a school earning 30,000 naira, and she was frustrated until one day she googled and she found us, and then she sent a mail, I would like to work for you. And as at that time we didn't have the vacancy, but we took her in, and she has been instrumental to setting up now she has her master's, she's done her master's, she's now a clinical psychologist. We have a widow who was recommended to us that she can cook, so let her come and cook. And over the years, it has been amazing watching her and her children flourish with the help of this job. We have different nurses who we just love their passion for the field. We have all kinds of staff, both male and female. Just that I'm a bit biased to gender as a woman myself, and knowing the challenges women face in society. But both male and female, we see the value. Even the doctors, doctors who finished their practice and they didn't have placement, we see the value that the work, we see the checks that we pay out to these doctors at the end of the month, and we're happy, we're fulfilled that one of the things that we set out to do in setting up this business is to give people jobs and for them to earn income doing what they love. So it's a joy, it's a pleasure, and it's a privilege to be an enabler. So that has been like the biggest thing for me, of course, in addition to providing care, private care for people who need it.
So in terms of advice, I wonder what advice you would give to female entrepreneurs, other women building their businesses or building their careers in Africa.
Yeah, I would say when you want to start any business, speaking as someone that has done several, I think one of the things you need to do is, the first thing you would do is ask yourself, is this a side venture? Is it a long-term enterprise or institution I'm trying to build? Or is this just a form of expression which can also bring me cash? Is very important. It will determine so many things, and it will inform a lot of choices that you make. And that's why my book, the Side Hustle Workbook, I made that book available, because if people would actually sit down with that book and tell themselves, the book is not perfect, but if you can answer some questions responsibly in that book, it will really help you to know what exactly you are getting yourself into, and it will inform a lot of choices and decisions. Then if you now decide that this is a long-term institution I want to establish, this is like a legacy full business, then I would encourage you, dear African woman, to quickly set up systems so you can delegate. Don't build a business that you are the accountant, you are the customer service, you are everything. As soon as possible, get systems so you can delegate, and surround yourself with enablers. Pick your team, pick people who, when you delegate to them, you pass the ball to them, they will deliver, and then you show them the appreciation. You share profits with them so they keep growing with you. Don't be selfish about it. Create value for the community of people that you work with. Create that value so that you can grow with them. But if it's something that is just a form of expression or a side venture, a hobby, all those kind of things, then you can decide that I am the everything, and you do what you can till you finally burn out and make all the money cash out. I'm saying this because I've done some things like that. But just make up your mind on time what it is you want and go for it. Give it your best. This is what I would say has helped me and can help anyone.
Thank you so much, Chigo. That's been so amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. I had fun. Hope you had fun too.
I did. Thank you so much for listening. If you're not already subscribed, please do so on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to leave us a review so we know how we're doing. I'm Akego Okoye, and you have been listening to African Business Stories.